Hello there, Internet. My name is Mogwai, and ahead of us lies yet another brilliant day in the arena, as today is the beginning of our long journey. Every journey has a beginning and an end, and I'm already quite prepared for the early start of this Magic the Gathering adventure, as I'm going to start things off, though, with a deck that represents, it's built by a color combination that is amongst my personal favorites in the game. Good old Golgari Midrange. Always have been a fan of this kind of archetype within MTG, and to this day in Standard, it has established itself as one of the most dominant mid-range archetypes within the meta. But if you are experienced in Magic, you will look at this list and you will see that it is inherently quite different from the Golgari mid-range decks that you're used to seeing, because it is fundamentally designed around a card that rarely anybody else is bringing into Standard. People call this a limited card, and I'm here to prove them otherwise. The SKYFISHER Spider, 4-mana Golgari creature as a spider with reach, which allows it to block into flying creatures, with a 3/3 stat line, is what I like to refer to as this season's or this Standard's Ravenous Chupacabra, but actually much better. Despite the fact that it has a requirement that is what it's limiting this card from seeing play in a lot of the more meta versions of Golgari, I argue that if you design a deck with cards that can enable this sort of requirement to be met with little effort, then all of a sudden you have a powerhouse of a turn 4 play. Because this card, the key line is the one that starts at the second and earns on the third line right there. When you do destroy target non-land permanent, it's not just limited to creatures. SKYFISHER Spider can knock out enchantments, artifacts, planeswalkers, basically anything that is played onto the board and stays there. This thing can kill it if it's not a land. And that is insane. That allows this card to bypass all sorts of really bizarre matchups by just fundamentally doing the same thing every game, which is take down their biggest threat. Whether it's a creature, an artifact, an enchantment, a tree. I mean, not technically the tree, the land before it, no, but the tree, yes. This card will kill it all. The only thing that it requires is a bit of a meal prior. You need to sacrifice another creature. So we have designed a Golgari mid-range deck that is capable of providing fodder for the SKYFISHER Spider relatively easily. And one of the key cards for that is Honest Rootstain. Honest Rootstain is the other card that this deck is essentially built around. 3-mana legendary creature that has a 3/2 stat line and says, when Honest Rootstain enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. And then creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. This deck has a relatively high density of creatures in proportion to the other cards. We have 7 instants, 2 sorceries, 24 lands, and a 27 total number of creatures, which allows us to really make use of this ongoing effect Honest Rootstain has, which will enable us to chain creatures in ways and out-tempo the opponent in ways that a lot of players are not really used to, because Rootstain is not really considered a metagame card. Though, in my opinion, maybe it should be, because this deck has been absolutely stellar for me. Got me from Platinum to Diamond and like nothing, and did so in best of 1, though I did have to optimize the list quite a bit, keep that in mind. This deck is following the same principles of Golgari Midrange, which is a very resilient mid-range list that is able to keep on going and fighting for value, but also stabilizing and surviving against faster, more aggressive style decks. SKYFISHER Spider is not only a card that allows us to destroy other permanents, but also when the SKYFISHER Spider dies, you may gain 1 life for each creature card in your graveyard, and then you exile the spider from your graveyard. This can give us essentially the life that we need to survive an onslaught from mono-red aggro, and it's all in 1 card, which is why I deemed it worthy to build an entire deck around it. With Honest Rootstain, we can play a bunch of these other creatures and chain them in ways that we can provide some combos that really should not be happening that early on in the game. Like, for example, Skullcap Snail into SKYFISHER Spider on turn 4. But let's slow down and let's focus on you know, the key cards from this build and what we're trying to do, and how these cards are actually synergizing together more so than initially meets the eye. This video may end up being over an hour because I have to figure out the you know, the proper length of like the recording session and the intro and everything, so bear with me. Hopefully you guys enjoy it nonetheless. So, Lord Skitter, the Sewer King, is a fundamental piece of this puzzle. Whenever another rat enters the battlefield under your control, you exile up to one target card from an opponent's graveyard. You spawn then at the beginning of combat on your turn a token that's a rat token that cannot block. But as this token enters the board, it triggers the Lord Skitter and allows us to attack the opposing graveyard. This is very important in Magic the Gathering because a lot of interaction revolves around interacting with the graveyard, and being able to disrupt that is really important, which is why a lot of decks incorporate some sort of graveyard hate. And Lord Skitter is a prime example of one that also happens to synergize even further in this deck because we're happen to be running a full set of the Gnawing Vermin, who is a rat and can therefore trigger Lord Skitter, but also Gnawing Vermin is doing a lot for this deck. We can mill ourselves for 2 cards to enable Honest Rothstein, give him something in the a creature in the graveyard to bring back to our hands, so we can potentially play him on curve. We can also make use of the ability of it dying, us giving -1/-1 to a creature to the end of the turn. This can be really helpful against Boros, Convoke, and aggressive decks in general. Also, black-based decks that run the Deep Cavern Bat, we can have situations where we sack the Gnawing Vermin with Skyfisher Spider, we kill their Gix, and then the effect of the Vermin will allow us to pick off the bat as well. So there's a lot of inherent potential value from this card. Can also enable crimes. In a pinch, we could make our opponent mill 2 cards and enable the likes of Karvek the Punisher through a crime by targeting our opponent, which is the equivalent of a crime. As then we have Preacher of the Schism as kind of like an extra unit to, instead of running 4 copies of Lord Skitter because it is a legendary creature, which means we cannot have 2 copies of it on the board, we run 3 copies and we go with 2 Preacher of the Schism, which is one of the prime 3-drops within the color black, because this card can function really well against both reactive and aggressive decks, or proactive, right? If we're facing an aggressive deck, we can utilize Preacher to start generating vampires with lifelink. These tokens can also be used to be sacked with the Skyfisher Spider, so it functions similarly to Lord Skitter in that sense. And against slower decks in which we are the aggressor, we can use this to draw cards as we attack. The Death Touch allows us to turn into big units. You cannot ask more out of a 3-drop. Preacher of the Schism is one of the best 3-drops in the game, in my opinion, and it fits this deck like a glove. As then, when it comes to our 2-drops, we have Mosswood Dreadnought and Skullcap Snail, alongside different variations of 2-mana instant speed creature removal. And the reason why I choose different variations of it is that we're not particularly vulnerable to a specific matchup. Because if we run to an Outlaw deck, then all of a sudden Shoot the Sheriff is useless, right? If we run to an Artifact deck, then Go for the Throat is useless. So I like spreading out and having different variations of these removal tools, and incorporating Assassin's Trophy as a one-off as the premier source of 2-mana removal that we just do not want to play early in the game, because otherwise we're going to be ramping our opponent. But in the later stages of the match, this card can just be a godsend, because we can kill whatever it is on the board we desire to kill, even a land if we want to. Pretty nuts. As we have this dense curve here of creatures, like I said, we have these 2-drops. Mosswood Dreadnought works really well with the Skyfisher Spider, as we can potentially recycle the unit, and with Honest Rothstein, we're able to accelerate the process in which we're recycling the Mosswood Dreadnought, making it more tempo friendly. Instead of having to spend 4 mana, we can spend 3 to do the entire thing, and that can be really, really key. Having a unit that never really truly goes away is really fundamental for a deck that requires you to be able to sacrifice stuff to get good value. As Skullcap Snail is a good value play, we have a lot of strong upon entry effects. That is fundamentally what this deck is built around, having strong upon entry effects that we can capitalize on, so that we can then recycle our creatures and get to re-trigger these strong upon entry battlefield entry effects. And Skullcap Snail is one of those examples, as if you time this well, being able to exile a card from the opponent's hand is amazing. It's a crime, which means it works with Karvek. It works really with Honest Rothstein. We can sack this with Skyfisher Spider and then recycle it with Rothstein and play it for just 1 mana, which is absolutely amazing. As then we have Shieldred, because Shieldred is really good in Golgari Midrange and black creature-based decks in general. This card is one of the best creatures in the game. It's not broken in my opinion, but it's just a really, really good card that allows us to stay alive against aggressive decks while also putting reactive decks on the timer. Like it's fundamental in both matchups. Gix's Command helps us in swarm matchups, like Boros Convoke. Being able to destroy each creature with power 2 or less is the most important and the main reason why we ended up incorporating this into our deck, so we can deal with spread out board states better, as we can then resort to lifelink against aggressors, or we can go for value by returning creature cards from our graveyard to our hand. Just a very, very flexible, very powerful spell that's very reliable here. And Aclazotz as a one-off, because Aclazotz, I think, as a one-off is almost a staple for a lot of black decks, really. You can't go wrong with it. It's just, you know, a reliable end game play that will never truly go away unless they exile it. And you're going to be seeing this guy put in a lot of work in today's video, even if he's not, you know, what the deck is fundamentally built around. He's definitely an excellent inclusion. And if you are a fan of the color black, then spending a mythic rare wall card on this card, I think is ultimately very worth. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs and cats, fish, that is the deck list right there. We went a little bit overboard with the deck tech. I will have chapters in the videos anyways, and today's video will definitely exceed 1 hour. I'm going to try to make them stay under that in around like 50 minutes, but I had to, you know, I had to get dirty. I had to get my hands dirty and figure things out so I can know what to do moving forward. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video, though. I think the games are absolutely stellar, but maybe I'm biased. And I'm really excited to share this different take on Golgari Midrange and showcase what SKYFISHER Spider is all about. A card that I truly believe is ultimately underrated. And I'm going to try to, you know, back up my case with today's video. So yeah, I'm going to stop talking. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for daily Magic the Gathering Arena content. Hope you're excited for what's to come. This is only the beginning. And I'm pumped as hell, man. I'm really excited. So leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Have a soul day. Hope you enjoyed the games. I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, here we go. Been a minute. A 5-year-old minute. We went full circle. All right, game 1 with Radgari. Hopefully it's a decent one. All right, so I'm going to be trying to explain my thought process and, you know, everything that's going on, especially for those of you who are watching this video and aren't too familiar with Magic the Gathering. But yeah, I also have to focus on the game and try to play good, so hopefully I can succeed in that sense. What we have here is a really solid hand because we have 3 lands. We're using the untapped GG app, which tells us the percentage of the probability of us drawing the next land, right? So in this land we have Land of our Wastes, we have Deathcap Glade, and we have Blooming Marsh. Blooming Marsh is ideally played early in the game. We got a gnawing, I have trouble pronouncing that, a gnawing vermin. Turn 1 that allows us to mill our deck out of 2 creatures. One of them being Honest Rutstein, which is something that we'd rather have in hand. But having these already means that if we draw into another Rutstein, we have some excellent targets on the graveyard. Now we're gonna play the Land of our Waste because we can't play the Deathcap Glade untapped until we have 2 or more lands. So we drop that one first. We're gonna go with an attack first. We see our opponent sticking a little bit to Reactor, which makes me suspect that there's a cut down in their hand. I'm gonna see if I can bait that out of them. I'm gonna play the Mosswood Dread Knight. Because maybe they have something else, like a Surveil card. Yeah, there you go. Otherworldly Gaze allows them to surveil 3 cards on the top of their deck, which basically means they look at the top 3 cards of the deck, and anything that they don't want, they can send to the graveyard. And the rest they keep on top. As we develop the Dread Knight, which is a 3/2 with Trample, that never truly goes away. Turn 3, Deathcap Glade. We have 3 lands, full Golgari board. Feels good, man. We're gonna swing first. It's important to swing first before developing in Magic because our opponent has 1 minute to work with on our turn here with an instant, right? So the less information that we give our opponent, the better. It's still early. I'm not particularly worried about a board wipe, especially considering I have these Mosswood Dread Knights that would just recycle. So I'm gonna drop another Gnawing Vermin. Let me know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, because I have no idea, honestly. And I'm gonna mill myself again. I'm gonna play Rats and Mill. There's another Surveil there. And we're gonna apply pressure. This is a reactive deck. We see they send a 3-fold Thunderhawk to the graveyard. Honestly, this is the first time I see this card. It's an artifact. It could be an artifact-centric deck. We get more information there, though, as we just milled them out of Aclatods. Yeah, it's some sort of like self-mill strategy, as we get rid of Bitter Triumph and a land. We've already connected with our 2 units. We're going to develop the Mosswood Dreadnought and call that a turn. We have a very strong board here. And they just spend their mana drawing. So they're definitely playing a slower game. And it's safe to assume that in a value match, we may end up being on the receiving end. So we got to end this match quickly. We're going to go for another open swing there. Drop them down to 7. Going to drop the Blooming Marsh, which at this point will enter the board tapped. And we're going to end our turn. Now we have mana open for a Go for the Throat. So if they were to develop a unit here, then they would lose, essentially. But they go for the Invasion of Amonkhet. Interesting. We both mill a card. I want to see what they milled first. More of these. They have 1 card left. That's like a cut down, potentially. We milled several stuff. I mean, we're going to get rid of the Go for the Throat because Gix's command is just way more value. And if we top deck a land, we actually make use of it. We top deck the SKYFISHER Spider, which could be used to destroy that, but they're dead. What an exciting first game! Basically, the gist of this is like our opponents spend a lot of time just building up what they want to do, but they offered no counterplay to our early board development, and we punished them for it. That's the thing about Magic the Gathering, right? Like, there is potential for really crazy shit to happen in this game. Like, compared to any other card game, no other card game even comes close to the crazy combos you can pull off and like the value generators you can set up. But you have 20 health. And if you don't defend the board early, you're going to get trampled down. Like, we're not even mono red. We just played 1-drops and 2-drops, went face, and that was the end. So, you know, set up the combos, but also make sure that you can defend the board because, you know, your combos don't matter if you are dead. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Round 2. All right. Yuppin is our second opponent, as we have another 3-lander. Feels good, man, but no early games as we had last time. We do have Lord Skitter into SKYFISHER Spider to look forward to, and we have Bitter Triumph as a potential turn to play with a tap land in Restless Cottage that we will be leading off with because we have no turn 1 play, so we may as well play our land that enters the board tapped, the turn where we can't really use our mana anyways, so we don't really pay the consequence of the downside. Because Takenuma has some potential utility later, if I keep drawing lands throughout this game, I may end up using this land for the channel ability. So I'm going to go with the Land of Our Waste instead. And I have nothing to do, but I have a Bitter Triumph. With the Bitter Triumph, I can remove a threat. So if, ideally for me, they develop here, but they don't. They don't, as we play the Deathcap Blade. Now, this is interesting. I think we can't just play passively. We're going to develop the Lord Skitter. I am expecting it to be removed because my opponent is playing very passively, which means they probably have... So I have like some allergies, sorry. They have some removal. I'm going to sneeze. I'm going to sneeze so hard. Okay. Okay, so they went for Go for the Throat. We have to develop Takenuma now as a land, so we can keep curving out. We don't want to play SKYFISHER Spider like that. I'm not sure what their deck is still. We've only seen 1 card. We have some reactive tools here. We could play a Karvek. Karvek would force another removal out of them. And I think that's better than playing passively and keeping these 2 over here because we're not even sure that they are like gonna be developing threats anytime soon. There's another piece of removal, but every piece of removal that goes down is 1 less that they have. There it is. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and discard the Bitter Triumph, since I already have a Go for the Throat as well. And they're going to sacrifice it immediately. Drawing a land here would be huge. Drawing a land here would be everything, because that means we would be able to play the Bat God. Oh! Clean on board! And Aklazats. I butchered it. I just realized at first. Acglazotz is ideal in this kind of matchup. They play the Cruelty of Gix, which is going to allow them to discard whatever they want from our hand. The Spider is what they remove, but we have the Gix's Command, baby. Before anything, we're going to make use of the Bat God. Lifelink and flying, and every time we attack, watch. They got to discard a card. This is a value machine, and when it dies, it becomes a land. Oh, yeah. Now, I have several options here. I could have gone for the Gix's Command earlier, but I think what I'm going to do is this. Very nice. I'm going to tap this because the Merrick's ability of it providing me with any color will end at the end of the turn, so I want to make use of this mana now. If you play lands like Merrick's, make sure to manually tap them because the game will not do it. The game, like, the AI or whatever, like the algorithm, I don't fucking know programming, but whatever it is, like, it's not smart enough to know that Merrick's will be useless as a land. I mean, useless. You know, it won't provide you with color later, so make use of it the turn you play it. We drop the Mosswood Dreadnought while still having Go for the Throat enabled. But now is when Cruelty of Gix is going to proc again. And it's an enchantment saga. So every turn it's a different chapter. They get to search... Oh. See, the Sunfall will exile all creatures. So I'm going to Go for the Throat onto my own Acglazotz. Yes. Yes. The game is like, Daddy, what are you doing? But I know what I'm doing. I'm going to do this because this is going to exile all creatures. So if my Acglazotz... God, that's a difficult name for me to say. If my Acglazotz were exiled there, I would not be able to bring it back. That would be really bad. We're not about that. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be... There's no creatures on their graveyard. I'm going to develop this. And I'm going to bring back Acglazotz. Unfortunately, they can take our Spider and use it against this. But instead, they go for Lord Skidder. Interesting. We get a clue, okay. So Lord Skidder triggers, they're going to be able to exile something from our graveyard, which is definitely not something that we like to see. But fortunately for us, we are going to be able to get good value out of Gix's Command. We're going to wait until the very end of the turn to trigger the clue that this piece of removal has generated, right? It's very efficient removal, but it does give your opponent something. We get this clue, which we get to pop to draw a card. And at this stage of the game, drawing a card is really, really important. As we got Preacher of the Schism, and we draw into Cut Down. We're going to go immediately for you, just making sure everything is tapping correctly. We are going to have our opponent sacrifice the strongest creature they own and return 2 cards to our hand. 2 creatures, sorry. So, unfortunately, we only have Karvek. But I'm not going to play Karvek. I'm going to play the Preacher of the Schism. Because Karvek into Cut Down will allow me to recycle my graveyard. So I don't want to have Karvek be vulnerable to a removal that they could have right now, especially when I'm tapped out like this. This Rat is actually good for me because I have a target for the Cut Down. We're going to incubate that as a 1/1. And I'll drop this Blade first. I'm going to attack with the Preacher of the Schism. Maybe dropping the Deathcap Blade wasn't a good idea. I'm going to swing with this. Because it will draw me a card. Good draw. We trade into that. Before I play the Skullcap Snail, I'm going to develop Karvek. I think tapping like that is fine, yeah. We're going to play Karvek here. And then I'm going to develop the, let's see. What are we doing here? The Skullcap Snail. The Skullcap Snail will allow me to... 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. There may be another board wipe here, to be honest. That's another piece of removal there. We are playing into another board wipe, but they have to have it. And they don't have it. I could play a cut down and trigger Karvik, but I don't have any more mana, so we gotta let him go. Still, them not having a board wipe is huge. The rat cannot block, so the rat... yeah, sorry, my audio went off there. My mic is like very sensitive, so I gotta like not touch the cables. Okay, it's my turn. Oh, that's a good top deck. Because Preacher of the Schism, I forgot to explain this, but I have explained it in the deck tech. Preacher, if I have more life than my opponent, he will ping me for 1 life and draw me a card, which is really neat. I could sack something here with the Conviction, but I want to keep my mana options open, though I have a huge hit here. 3, 5, 6. Is it worth it to play you? I can really attack their graveyard this way. 4, 6, 7, 10. Could make me feel a little bit... I'm gonna go for it. We're gonna do that, and we're gonna exile an enchantment because it's a permanent that could return, and we're gonna swing with everything. Now the Restless Cottage will also exile something. I'm gonna exile the Cruelty of Gix. I'm gonna focus on exiling all their permanents. Oh my god, that snail. Huge, massive hit, dropping them down to 3, and now this snail feels amazing because we take half of the remaining hand away. This is the power of Golgari. The resilience. Oh my god. Okay. I'm gonna take a little bit to read that for a moment. Each player may select cards. For each player, choose a creature. Okay. Never mind. Reading is for nerds. Just win. Odilo is an interesting avatar. And we got another 3-lander. That's just the result of good deck building, in my opinion. Honest Rutstain in our opener. With a Mosswood Dread Knight, a Spider, 3 lands. Beautiful. We're gonna lead off with the Restless Cottage. The Restless Cottage. I have trouble pronouncing a lot of Magic cards. We're gonna lead off with the Restless Cottage because it is a tap land. And we have no turn 1 play. So now is the perfect time to play this, like I said in the first game. And now we have 2 options, actually. We could develop the Dread Knight, or we could keep the mana up for a Go for the Throat. It really depends on what color we see here, because this could be mono red aggro, it could be Azorius Control, 2 decks that play extremely different. And it's most likely I'm going to be developing you, but especially because if you go down, like I can always Honest Rustin later. We see a Shipwreck Marsh. I'm going to go Dread Knight. Dread Knight for the simple reason that we want muscle. We want to apply pressure. We see blue and black, and we know it's not a super fast-paced deck, necessarily. Zombie. Okay, I was wrong. It's probably a DIMIR zombie deck. Nice. Blooming Marsh. We would play this, but now is the only time to play this for it to enter untapped, so we're going to be playing it now. I'm going to go for the Honest Rutstein, I think, to bring back the Mosswood Dread Knight. It seems to be a more reactive deck, though. And Honest Rutstein... Is that the best play? If I play this, we're probably playing into more removal. I want to have more value potential options from this, so I'm going to go with you. Even if that means that we are a bit slower here. Nice. And I'm going to play the Dread Whispers. Playing for a little bit for value here. Make sure we don't run out of gas. Making full use of the Mosswood Dread Knight there at the expense of a little bit of momentum. But I think they're still very, like, they still have a lot of removals, probably. Like, they definitely, like, them showing this means that they got, their deck has at least a certain reactive nature to it. Who the hell are you? Geralf, Visionary Stitcher. Oh, like a different version of Geralf. Zombies you control have flying. Oh. Oh, you're not okay. But, am I in a rush to kill you, though? I'm not sure I am. I'm gonna play Honest Wrestling now. Bring back the Skullcap Snail, play for just 1 mana. And gonna get rid of a card in their hand. Maybe this is a play I could be delaying for later because this is more valuable when they have less options. But I'm not immediately threatened by this because there's no zombies on the board. Okay, so it's a zombie. Okay, so this is an artifact that just chooses to become something. And now because of this guy, it has flying. Ward means that if I want to target it, I need to spend 2 extra mana, which means I could kill that with a Skyfisher Spider, actually. I kind of have to deal with that, right? Unfortunately, like, this 1/4 is annoying. I can't break through completely here. It has to be through the spider. The way I kill this. I'm going to play a Skyfisher Spider for 3 mana thanks to the Rusting. I'm going to sack the Gnawing Vermin. And I'm going to target you with this. And I'll explain in a moment. And I'm going to target the Roaming Throne. The war triggers. I have to pay 2 extra mana to bypass it. So getting rid of this takes everything out of me. But now I can actually attack and not worry about my units trading bad into this. They can still chump block my Snail. But if they want to block my Rutstein, all of a sudden they lose their unit thanks to the Rat. So this allows me to push a little bit of damage here. Dealing with Geralf will be significantly easier than dealing with that thing with a ward. In case you're wondering what this bow means, this spider has reach, which means I can block flying creatures as well. I think this is the Skyfisher Spider debut on the video, actually. Whoa! Greed is a cardinal sin. Okay, so basically, this ability matters only if they have extra mana to spend on it. So this is just a 2 mana, 2/3 with Death Touch and Flying. The Death Touch is a little bit annoying. I mean, dealing with this allows me to push more damage. I'm going to develop the Sewer King first. I'm going to enter the combat phase. I'm going to banish the Roaming Throne. And I'm going to swing with everything, actually. If they want to block the Skullcap Snail, fine, but they take more damage. The 1/4 stat line really... Like, Geralf is really excelling here. They decide to go for the value trade, which leads me to believe that they don't have a board wipe, which is not something that I'm expecting. Now I'm going to use the Mirex. And I'm going to double cast. Look at Rusting. Look at this tempo. Thanks to Honest Rusting. Honestly. Too much. This matchup is... like, this game was a perfect example of, like, just how powerful Rutstein and Spider can be in a Golgari shell. You know, like, the momentum that I can generate with Rutstein, be able to play my my Mosswood Dread Knights for just 1 mana. Bananas! We're on a roll. I think that's Protein. With a 3 and a 4. Alright. This is a bit of a different kind of hand. Honestly, this is a risky keep. Because if we're facing mono red aggro, we could be in trouble. But we do have 4 mana to curve into Shieldred and Aklazot, so if we can make it until then, it's definitely worth. I'm gonna play the Gnawing Vermin, hopefully mill some, like, good stuff. Okay. And I'm gonna develop another Restless Cottage, tapped. I have no other place to follow up with, and then I'll be developing the Blooming Marsh. because it'll be the last turn where I can play this and have it end untapped. What do? He investigates. When you sacrifice an artifact, he puts a +1/+1 counter on it. Okay. I'm gonna open swing. This creature flies. I can't block into it anyways, so there's no point. And I'm gonna play Rat again. This hand was slow. It was kind of risky. But at the same time, like, I had the guaranteed 4 lands into Shieldred. So even against mono red, it wasn't like automatically... It's still risky though. Keeping such a late curve can definitely bite you in the ass, but never punished! The beautiful thing about the gnawing vermin is that when it dies, I get to apply -1/-1, so they can't actually block into this. I could be playing the spider to get rid of it, but I'm not really threatened, so I'm gonna play Shieldred. Because I'm not under enough pressure, Shieldred is perfect to play here. With the 5 health, this like blue-red combination mostly resorts to damage or bouncing, but mostly damage, right, to deal with things. So dealing with a thick body like Shieldred, a 4/5, a 5 toughness stat line essentially, is not easy for them to handle. And Shieldred will just do so much. The longer she stays on the board, she'll keep us healthy and she'll put a timer on them. They don't do anything, which is interesting. There could be some counter spells in the mix. I'm gonna go with an open swing. Try to force them to tap their mana through sheer combat. This lineup is excellent because, again, the Vermins will trade into the Gleaming Geardrick. We see a block there. That may indicate them resorting to a removal to deal with that. Now what I want to do is I want to Skullcap Snail. Develop a little bit further, get 1 card out of their hand. Not super impactful when they have so many cards in hand, but still. And I could develop the Mossword Dread Knight, but I don't want to lose out on value. I've developed a lot of stuff on the board, so I'm like 1 board wipe away. Wow, they can't clear. And blue and red are not great at board wiping like as like white is, for example, or black, but they can still do some stuff like ill-timed explosion, right? So I don't want to overcommit to the board. They have to discard something really big to kill Shieldred though, because this spell will essentially deal X damage. Oh, the Chandra, yeah, okay, everything's gone. But they lose a bunch of life because of that. Shieldred put in massive work, and we have no targets for the rats. I cry every time. Unfortunately, we just don't have mana, so I'm gonna develop the Preacher of the Schism. They can always clear him, but the 4 health is harder to remove for red in general. Like Lightning Strike, Brotherhood's End, nothing kills that on its own. They could just bounce it, like I said earlier. They also can bounce. If we draw into a land though, we gotta watch out because they have 3 lands open, 2 blue sources essentially, which allows them to counterspell potentially. I'm gonna try to play Preacher of the Schism again. It's the card that they know I have in hand, and I'm gonna drop a Vermin too. It'll kind of suck to mill some lands here. It is what it is. There's Chandra.
No more watching. It's time to do something. For everyone we've lost to Phyrexia.
I'm gonna develop the rat, and I'm gonna exile the Light Up by Night because it has flashback. So I see I remove them because I exiled that from the graveyard with the Lord Skitter. They can no longer use that spell. But Chandra remaining on the board is spooky. I have the spider, but I just had no target for it. Who the hell are you? Whenever you cast an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, you copy that spell. What the? Okay. Well, Whenever an opponent casts an artifact, instance, or sorcery spell, counter that spell. Okay, so I'm gonna play Spider. I'm gonna try to play Spider. I'm gonna sack the rat, and I'm gonna target you. Remove the blocker. Triggered that. Honestly, get rid of you. And try to swing and kill Chandra. Can you do it? Can you do it, Skitter? Can you do that for us? Can you do it, champ? Attaboy!
I'm sorry.
Attaboy! Wow, we powered through that. That was scary. If they stabilize with that Chandra, the sky's the limit for them. There's the Brotherhood's End. We don't need to exile Skyfisher Spider. We would gain 11 health, but we don't... Health is not a problem this game. At least right now. The problem right now is, like, value, right? Getting outvalued. Okay. This is an ideal setting for Aklatos, unless they counter us. It is possible, but it would have to be a very specific counter spell. So I'm going for it. Aklatos! Ah, he's in! He's in! And the music... It's fitting as fuck. Alright. The Bat God is inside. The Bat God died. But he'll be back. He'll be back, baby. Oh, shit. That's the first time I see the Restless Spire being played. Okay, so this, they scry. Whatever they have on top, they want to keep. That's another land right there. Bat God returns because they only have one card in hand, so we can trigger the effect with that, and we can play the Mosswood Dread Knight. Because my go for the throw can't deal with Chandra anyways. Wait, what? Oh my god, you degenerate. Okay. Are we expecting a counter spell? Because I gotta kill that. Nah, I gotta go with this. Because if they have a counter spell, I have a backup plan with the Skyfisher Spider. There it is. Okay. I could have just nom Vermin into it, but it's fine. Because now we Skyfisher Spider, we sack the Mosswood Dread Knight. We target you. And because we're the owner of Aklatos, he returns to us. So we're able to counter that nasty play. They stole our bat. Like, how dare they? Yeah, this is a match. This is a game. We're both digging deep. But I'm really showcasing the resilience of Golgari. Golgari can just keep going, man. Golgari doesn't care who you are and how flashy your deck is. Golgari will dig deep. And we'll find the value. Okay. You have your untap though. You have first strike, but I have 3 health. So we get rid of the land. But they sacrifice the land just to scry there. Ooh! If we had a cut down, this is an easy win here. Am I that concerned about this? I'd like to bring back the Aklatos. I think that's just the better play. But before anything, we can do this, right? Ooh, Honest Root Stain. Okay, that may change things. I could bring back the Aklatos, but why not play Honest Root Stain and get rid of their card in their hand? Let's swing. Will they block? No. Drop them down to 4. We're gonna Honest Root Stain, which will allow us to bring back the Skullcap Snail. And then we can play for 1 mana. We can get rid of their last card in hand. This is huge. Look at, oh my god, this is more than huge. We got rid of Farewell. Look at this card. Look at this insanity. And the Snail just got rid of that. Massive. And we get to play the Dread Knight for 1 mana. That's the power of Rust Stain in this deck. Allowing us to apply a lot of pressure here. They're top decking. They have removal. GG! No re, baby! That's what I'm talking about! That's what I'm talking about. That was a sick game. Nice! Minivan. 3 lander. Good lands to start off with. Honest Rusting, removal. This hand is... Mono-red. Mono-red, and they have... they plot turn 1. We're going to rest the Scottish turn 1. It's kind of scary because it does leave us wide open to a hit here. But we can always respond with a removal. They're gonna equip it. And incoming big hit. Now we Blooming Marsh though, but we play reactive. Okay? Really want to showcase the mono-red matchup. Every micro decision matters here. And it's the difference between life and death. Everything. Like knowing when to time that shit. I'm gonna really speed up the transitions here. Trying to make it think that they don't have that. They're gonna attack. 2 blockers. And as we go to damage, I wait for them to invest into that, and I'm like, bitch, please. You wait for them to invest their spells into their units to time the removal. That's absolutely backbreaking for them. We have nothing here. This is probably a good opportunity for me to play. No, I have to play the Blue Marsh anyways, because what's the point otherwise, right? I have several different options here. Like keeping the Bitter Triumph open, which is what I want to do, I think. Is it? They have 2 cards in hand. They're going to draw 1 more card. I could take a bit of a hit here, but nah. I'm going to play the Mosswood Red Knight. They're low on gas. Like, I don't expect them to go hard this turn. Whoa, they double plot. The Highway Robbery. You may discard a card or sacrifice a land to draw 2 cards. They're coming hard, but this is a perfect turn. I could play Sheoldred, but a play that I like more here, because I have 4 mana, and I just top deck this, is to Skullcap Snail. Watch this. The last card in their hand, gone. Gone! Beautiful value. And now we swing. Now we start being aggressive, because now we're brave. Why? Because we got Bitter Triumph in the back. We got Bitter Triumph in the back. They're gonna do that. They have to second land. They have to second land in order to draw, and that's just gonna slow them back. I should point out that this deck does pretty good against Mono-Red. Like, Mono-Red is not really a highly problematic matchup. The moment we get to develop Sheoldred without pressure is the moment the game is over. We're gonna swing with both. Because them, like, for them, killing Sheoldred is not easy, actually. Red in general struggles with big units. And Sheoldred is gonna be healing us, which is Mono-Red, like, they hate that shit. Oh my god, they hate it. Whenever you heal, they just, it's like they die inside. Highway Robbery, plotted. Gonna allow them to cycle off a land in hand, but look at that. Sheoldred punishing them for it. I'm putting them on the clock, boy. Oh, that Skullcap Snail was so neat, though. Do I even care about you? I don't. I legitimately don't. Yeah, okay. Fine. Feels good, man. Gavel. Looking all mysterious as we got Lord Skitter on curve. A bit heavy on lands, but 4 lands is good. It's reliable. And Aklazot's to curve out into with Honest Rustin as well. We're lacking turn 2 plays, which are pretty important here. Especially against an aggressive deck. They duress us, which is awesome because we have all of our cards are creatures. So they lost card advantage just as we draw our non-creature spell. That's hilarious. I'm gonna lead off with the Restless Cottage. Why, Timmy? At this point, you know the answer, right? Come on. Because we have no turn 1 plays. So we get the tap lane out of the way. Now we go Blooming Marsh. They don't know we have the Bitter Triumph. The rest is... These eyes on the cards are the cards that they see, right? They don't know about Bitter Triumph. So they may get a little bit overconfident and develop something like a Gix, and we're like, bitch, please. We're gonna pay 3 life. We're not under pressure. Get that out of here. And now, what a great turn it is to play Lord Skitter, the Sewer King. Now our rats are gonna have a feast. Oh man. Delicious. Nothing like fried Phyrexian. Okay, they play the Graveyard Trespasser, which is kind of annoying because, you know, it's just annoying. I kind of want to kill it, but that means discarding a card. Discarding a card is a little bit annoying. I could sack the rat and then go for the throat. I don't need to play the spider yet. I'm gonna Corrupted Conviction. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shoot the sheriff. Actually a criminal, not a sheriff, but you know. And I'm gonna discard the Mosswood Dread Knight. The least impactful discard right there. Get rid of that threat. I gotta explain for a moment what just happened there. I just realized for newer players. I didn't really dive into details there. The reason why I had to discard a card there is because of the ward effect. The Graveyard Trespasser has a ward. I've explained this before. You know, if we want to target it, we have to pay the ward price.
This is my home, and I don't appreciate it when people touch my things.
Okay. Liliana coming in, forcing the cut down out of him to be able to use the her ability. Now though, now is an ideal turn to play Honest Wrestling. Bring back the I think Lord Skitter actually, because we have another Dread Knight there, and be able to play for 1 mana. It just feels so good with 4 mana to be able to do this, you know. They're low on gas. They probably want to play something so that they can discard with Liliana. Bitter Triumph, and they're gonna go for the discard effect. Now the question is, what do we discard? What do we discard here? Honestly, I think go for the throat. They're out. They're out of gas. They have no gas, which means Mosswood alone is all I need to take down this Liliana. Get the fuck out of here!
Whatever. Luck favors the foolish, after all.
Yeah, so salty. She's so salty. It's crazy. And now, on this clean slate, it just feels good to slam down the Bat God, baby. They have a demolition field, which can allow them to destroy, like, the Merrics. I actually don't mind that at all. I'm going to search for a basic land, which is going to have to be a swamp. What do you think about my swamp? Pretty edgy, huh? Oh. That's kind of good. And because they have nothing to discard, whenever we attack, they discard a card. If they can't, we draw a card. Ain't that beautiful? I'm gonna go in, put them on the clock. I'm gonna call onto the Restless Cottage. Yeah, I guess they had enough. Man, we're on fire today! Nope. I guess you'll be my final boss. Nope. Now, this hand is interesting, because we have a Blooming Marsh, and it makes sense to lead off with this, right? Mono-red. But we're gonna lead off with the Deathcap Glade. And the reasoning for that is we have no turn 1 play, and we may not draw into the land, and we would have to play this on turn 2 tapped, which is when we need to go for the throat. Having go for the throat here is really nice, but it's mono red, and they're going first, so that's always dangerous. That's always extremely dangerous. Okay, so they play no creatures to capitalize on the second chapter of the saga. And that's great for us. Now we play the Blooming Marsh. We have removal, but we want to pass fast to make him think that we don't have anything. Like if you sleep too much on the thing. Yeah, I'm gonna do. I could have killed that before they played the card, because that draws them a card, right? But I want them to keep committing to it. Again, pass fast, but not overpass. Attackers, blockers, damage. Alright, kill that. And now, you know what it is, baby. It's Lord Skitter. The Sewer King! Rats! All rats. And we're targeting Ancestral Anger. Why? Because... Read. Plus X. X is the number of Ancestral Angers in their graveyard. These cards feed off of each other, so we want to exile them. There's two reasons to exile this. First of all, because of that. Second of all, it's a sorcery. Instants and sorceries play into the 2-drop that flips over and draws. I forgot the name of the guy. It's like a little gnome. They play a Charming Scoundrel to discard a card and draw a card. Okay, so there's like different things that they can do with this, right? Like they could have made her a 2/2, but they chose not to. Oh wow, they got rid of a lightning strike that could be used to kill this. Interesting. Oh, that's gotta wait. What? What? Okay. I don't want to be that guy. I really don't want to be that guy, but this is kind of what people mean when they say classic mono red player, you know what I'm saying? What the hell was that? Seriously, like, why? I wish this was a untapped land, but because it is a tapped one, I have no choice. I'm gonna use Skitter. I'm gonna continue to target their, instants and sorceries for that same reason. I can't block into this, so I'm gonna push some damage. It's one more turn where I'm susceptible to this, but at the same time, like, it's a Phoenix check with like a monster roll. Like, it's not the scariest thing in the world. Like, I'm still at 11 health, and I got a spider, and the spider has reach, which allows me to block into flyers. Legends of Runeterra should have had reach. Would have been nice. I mean, eventually it did, but I like it as a keyword. You know, I think it's very, very well implemented in Magic. Because flyers don't feel like elusive spells in Legends of Runeterra. Okay, another big hit. Down to 7. We don't mind. We don't mind. What we do... I mean, I could have just dropped the bat, but I'm gonna get rid of that. We take away one of these again. I'm gonna mill myself. And I'm gonna spot her. And I'm gonna get rid of this because this card can come back from the graveyard. And I'm gonna swing. And now I have a Skyfisher Spider with reach. You see that bow? That means that I'm not vulnerable to like a flyer with haste or anything like that. They're top decking. I have one hell of an arsenal here. Like, I could have played Aklizots, but I would have showcased the spider. This standards Ravenous Chupacabra. And people don't even know it. You guys seen just how good this card feels, like every single time. Like, you just need proper setup for it. That's why Lord Skitter into it's just so good. Mono red down. Again, to be fair, I do think the piloting was a little bit lackluster. Like, I think they just kind of like went unga bunga. They're just like, fuck it, face. They don't care if everything dies. You know, I think they could have sequenced that a little bit better. Like, they had a lightning strike they could have used in Lord Skitter, which they had to. But as a mono red player, it doesn't feel good to use your damage based spells on creatures instead of going face with it, right? But you got to do what you got to do, man. But I think we really showcased like that we handle mono red well, and yeah, that was a crazy session. Like, we did really well. Oh my god, that was neat. And that is the first video of the new journey and the definitive journey for the time being for this YouTube channel right here. I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. Golgari. We really showcased Golgari excelling in best of one, bringing a lot of the great traits Golgari Midrange is known for, but with a bit of that Mogwai twist, utilizing Rutsteen, SKYFISHER Spider. You guys saw how good Lord Skitter is as a card. The Numbing Vermins, allowing us to not get run down early on while milling our deck to enable Honest Roasting to have targets in the graveyard to go for. Skullcap Snail was also really neat, especially when timed properly, it can completely cripple the opponent. The Mosswood Dread Knights, this is nothing new. This card just outstanding and actually functioning really well in conjunction with Honest Rutsteen and SKYFISHER Spider, making sure like the way this deck is, like, it doesn't dive too deeply into the synergies, but it makes sure that there's always some way to generate fodder for the Spider, and I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of this deck. Like, I really enjoy playing it. I think it's extremely fun, and I think it's very competitive in best of one ranked Magic. So if you are a fan of this color combination, give it a shot. I think you won't be disappointed. And I'm gonna stop rambling. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for daily Magic the Gathering Arena videos. I got so many lists ready for you guys, and the decks are only gonna get spicier and spicier. I hope you guys are as excited as I am. It just feels so good to be back, and this is just definitely the card game for me, man. I was so hungry for this level of complexity, and I missed it dearly. And it's just great. I love what I do, and I'm really grateful that I get to do it. So yeah, got a little bit sappy there towards the end, but it's my first video. I think I get a pass for that. Love you. Have a slow day. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow.